The Mafia Boss rejected all the beautiful women he met on blind dates, but fell in love with the kind hotel waitress and made her an offer. Pause for a moment, sweetie. Like button, press it. Subscribe, press that too. We're building our community, the biggest romance hub on YouTube. Come be part of it. The crystal chandelier cast dancing shadows across booth 7 as Vincent Castellano watched his 5th blind date of the month excuse herself to the powder room. She wouldn't come back. They never did after he made it clear, politely, always politely, that there would be no second meeting. The woman was stunning, connected, perfect on paper, and absolutely wrong. Now here's where it gets interesting. Vincent Castellano, 32 years old, heir to the most powerful crime family in New York, had rejected 17 women in 3 months. 17. His mother was ready to disown him. His consigliere thought he'd lost his mind. And honestly, they might have been right. But then she appeared, Sarah Mitchell, 25, carrying a tray of dirty dishes like it was the most important cargo in the world. She wasn't supposed to be working the VIP section. That much was obvious from the way she glanced nervously at the maitre d'. Her honey blonde hair kept escaping its ponytail, and there was a coffee stain on her white shirt that she'd tried to hide with her apron. She was perfect. Vincent's eyes tracked her across the restaurant floor. The way she smiled at an elderly couple, genuine warmth lighting up her face. The careful attention she paid to a crying child, slipping the little girl an extra cookie when the parents weren't looking. This wasn't someone performing for tips. This was someone who actually gave a damn. Mr. Castellano? The maitre d' approached, wringing his hands. Is everything satisfactory? I can have Antonio. Who is she? Vincent interrupted, his voice quiet but absolute. The maitre d' followed his gaze. Sarah? She's new, sir. Just started last week. She's not supposed to be... I want her serving my table. Sir, she's not trained for VIP service. Perhaps... Vincent turned, and the maitre d' felt the temperature drop 10 degrees. I wasn't asking. 20 minutes later, Sarah approached booth 7 on shaking legs. The most dangerous man in New York was staring at her like she was something precious and breakable. Every instinct screamed danger. Every romantic movie she'd ever watched screamed different kind of danger. Can I get you anything, Mr. Castellano? Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Points for that. Vincent smiled. It was the kind of smile that probably made grown men nervous. It definitely made her nervous. Sit down. I can't. I'm working. You are now. He gestured to the seat across from him. Please. That please was wrapped in steel, honey. When a man like Vincent Castellano says please, it's really not a question. Sarah glanced around. The maitre d' was nodding frantically and slowly slid into the booth. What's your name? Sarah Mitchell, sir. Sarah. He tested it like expensive wine. How long have you worked here? 6 days. And before that? I was waitressing at Marco's Diner. Before that, the coffee shop on 5th. Before that... She stopped, realizing she was rambling. Vincent leaned forward. Why did you leave Marco's? Sarah's jaw tightened. There it was. That flash of something under the sweetness. Strength. The owner's son thought the uniform came with benefits. I disagreed. Loudly. And right there, watching this slip of a girl meet his eyes without flinching, Vincent Castellano made a decision that would change both their lives forever. How would you like a different job, Sarah? The air in booth 7 grew thick enough to cut. Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs. She'd heard stories about Vincent Castellano. Everyone had. She knew exactly what kind of job a man like him might offer to a girl like her. But when she looked into his dark eyes, she didn't see the predator everyone warned about. She saw something else, something lonely, something human. What kind of job? She asked carefully. His smile widened, and honey, if you think you know what's coming next, you really don't. Vincent's penthouse office overlooked Central Park, 32 floors of power, money, and secrets that would make most people's blood run cold. Sarah stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, trying to look calm while her reflection showed a girl who was absolutely not calm. Personal assistant, Vincent said from behind his mahogany desk. You'd manage my calendar, handle correspondence, coordinate with my various businesses. He paused. Legitimate businesses. Sarah turned. Right. Because you definitely need someone who's been waitressing for 8 years to manage your corporate empire. Oh, I like this girl. She's got spine. Vincent did too, judging by the way his lips twitched. I need someone I can trust. Someone who isn't connected to my world. Someone who... He stopped himself, running a hand through his dark hair. The salary is $200,000 a year. Sarah actually laughed. She couldn't help it. Mr. Castellano? Vincent. Mr. Castellano, she repeated firmly. Nobody pays a personal assistant $200,000 unless they're expecting something extra. And I'm not interested in extras. Vincent stood, moving around the desk with the grace of a predator. Not threatening, just present. I'm offering you a legitimate job, Sarah. You'll have a contract, benefits, legal protections. He stopped 3 feet away, close enough to smell his cologne, something expensive that probably cost more than her monthly rent. I don't buy people. I'm not my father. That last part came out bitter. Interesting. Then why me? Sarah demanded. Why not hire a professional, someone qualified? Because professionals come with loyalties, expectations, agendas. Vincent's dark eyes held hers. You come with nothing but your own moral compass. And from what I saw at the restaurant, that compass points true north. Sarah wanted to argue. Should have argued. But she thought about her studio apartment with the broken heater, the student loans that would follow her to her grave, her mother's medical bills that just kept coming. She thought about her options. And she thought about the fact that Vincent Castellano was looking at her like she was the only person in the world who mattered. Stupid girl. Smart decision. Sometimes those two things overlap. One condition, she said. Vincent raised an eyebrow. You're negotiating? If I take this job, you treat me like an actual assistant. No special treatment. No. Complications. She straightened her shoulders. I'm not interested in being anyone's mistress, Mr. Castellano, not even a well-paid one. The silence stretched between them like a wire-pulled taut. Then Vincent did something unexpected. He laughed, a real laugh, not the cold sound he used in business meetings. Deal. He extended his hand. Though I should warn you, Sarah, my life is complicated. The job will be too. I've worked 3 jobs while getting my business degree at night, Sarah replied, shaking his hand. His palm was warm, calloused. Not what she expected from a crime lord. I can handle complicated. If only she'd known how complicated things were about to get. 3 weeks into the job, Sarah had reorganized Vincent's entire filing system, fired his previous assistant's lazy nephew, and accidentally interrupted what was definitely a money laundering discussion. She'd apologized, backed out of the room, and pretended she'd heard nothing about offshore accounts. Vincent found her hyperventilating in the kitchen. Breathe, he commanded gently, pressing a glass of water into her hands. In through your nose, out through your mouth. I didn't hear anything, Sarah gasped. About the Caribbean accounts or the wire transfers or... Sarah. Vincent caught her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. I know. You're not going to. She couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't even think it. Vincent's expression softened in a way that made her stomach do complicated things. Kill you? Have you killed? Make you disappear? He shook his head. Sarah, you work for me. That means you're under my protection. Anyone who touches you answers to me. That's not exactly comforting considering your reputation. It should be. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. Just once, barely there. My reputation is why you're the safest person in New York right now. And there it was again. That look. The one that made Sarah forget he was dangerous and remember he was just a man. A complicated, powerful, probably going to hell man, but still. Just a man. They were standing too close. She should step back. He should step back. Neither of them moved. The moment shattered when Vincent's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his entire demeanor changed. Softened and hardened simultaneously, if that was even possible. I have to go, he said. Family dinner. Bianca's in town. Your sister? Sarah had learned the family tree in her first week. Had to, really, when you're scheduling meetings with people who might actually be vampires for all the blood on their hands. Half-sister, Vincent corrected. Same father, different mothers. She's... He paused, choosing his words carefully. Ambitious. The way he said it made Sarah's spine tingle. This wasn't sibling rivalry. This was something darker. Take tomorrow morning off, Vincent said, grabbing his jacket. I'll have Marco drive you home. I can take the subway. Sarah. That voice again, the one that wasn't really a request. Marco drives you. Every night. Non-negotiable. After he left, Sarah stood in the kitchen of a penthouse that cost more than she'd earn in 3 lifetimes, and wondered what the hell she'd gotten herself into. The answer, unfortunately, was about to get a lot clearer. Bianca Castellano swept into Vincent's office like a runway model, all 6 feet of her in designer heels, platinum blonde hair, and a smile sharp enough to cut glass. Sarah took one look at her and knew exactly what kind of problem she was dealing with, the kind that wore Chanel and plotted murder. "So you're the famous Sarah," Bianca purred, circling her like a shark. Vincent's little assistant. The pause before assistant spoke volumes. Sarah kept her expression neutral. "Ms. Castellano, your brother is in a meeting. He should be finished in 20 minutes. Oh, I'm sure you keep his schedule very organized." Bianca perched on Sarah's desk, deliberately invading her space. "Tell me, how does a waitress end up working for the head of the Castellano family?" "I imagine the same way anyone gets a job. Application, interview, hire." Bianca laughed, but there was no warmth in it. "You're either incredibly naive or incredibly clever. I haven't decided which yet." "Does it matter?" Sarah met her eyes steadily. 7 years of dealing with entitled customers had taught her how to handle mean girls in expensive clothes. Bianca was just a more dangerous version of the same species. The door to Vincent's office opened. He took in the scene. Bianca perched on Sarah's desk, Sarah's rigid posture, and his jaw tightened. "Bianca, my office, now." As Bianca glided past, she leaned close to Sarah's ear. "He protects his toys, but toys break, sweetie. Always." Sarah's hands shook for a full minute after the door closed. Through the glass walls, soundproof but visible, she could see Vincent and Bianca arguing. His expression was controlled fury. Hers was pure venom. Then Bianca looked directly at Sarah through the glass and smiled. It was the kind of smile that promised pain. That night, as Marco drove Sarah home, she couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just made an enemy. A powerful, connected, absolutely terrifying enemy. The kind who knew people. The kind who made people disappear. Her phone buzzed. "Vincent. Don't let her get to you. B is all talk." Sarah stared at the message. Vincent had never texted her before. All their communication went through official channels. This was personal. She typed back. "Is she?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally. "No, but I won't let her hurt you." Sarah looked out at the New York streets blurring past. She thought about Vincent's eyes when he looked at her, about the way he'd touched her face in the kitchen, about the fact that she was falling for a man whose business card should probably read "professional criminal." And she thought about Bianca's smile, that promised pain. "Girl, you're in deeper than you realize, and the water's only getting darker." The charity gala was the kind of event Sarah had only seen in movies. Flowing gowns, champagne fountains, and enough diamonds to fund a small country. Vincent had insisted she attend as his associate, which apparently required a dress that cost more than her college tuition. "You look beautiful," he'd said when he picked her up. Simple words. But the way he looked at her? That wasn't simple at all. Now, 3 hours into the event, Sarah was nursing her second glass of champagne and trying not to notice how many women were circling Vincent like designer-clad vultures. He deflected them all with the same polite distance he'd shown his blind dates. His eyes kept finding Sarah across the room. "You're playing a dangerous game." The voice came from behind her. Sarah turned to find an older woman, elegant, sharp-eyed, wearing a fortune in pearls. "Excuse me." "Vincent Castellano." The woman sipped her champagne. "I'm Margaret Chen. I've known the family for 30 years. And I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you." Sarah's heart did that stupid fluttering thing. "We're colleagues. Honey." Margaret's smile was knowing. "I've seen colleagues. This isn't that. And Bianca's noticed too." "I haven't done anything." "You exist. That's enough." Margaret's expression turned serious. Bianca wants what Vincent has. The family, the power, the respect. She's been angling for it since their father died 5 years ago. She's ruthless, connected, and she doesn't lose. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because Vincent is a good man trapped in a bad world. He deserves someone who sees that. But you need to know what you're walking into." Margaret touched Sarah's arm gently. Watch your back, dear. And don't drink anything you didn't pour yourself. She disappeared into the crowd, leaving Sarah cold despite the warm ballroom. An hour later, Sarah's head started spinning. Not drunk spinning, wrong spinning, her vision blurred. The room tilted. She grabbed a chair for support, her champagne glass slipping from her fingers. Through the fog, she saw Bianca watching from across the room, smiling. Sarah? Vincent's voice cut through the haze. Strong arms caught her as her knees buckled. Sarah, look at me. What did you drink? Champagne. Her tongue felt thick. Vincent, I don't feel... Marco! Vincent's voice cracked like thunder. Car, now, and call Dr. Morrison. The world went sideways. Sarah felt Vincent lifting her, carrying her through the crowd like she weighed nothing. She tried to speak, to tell him she was fine, but her words came out slurred. Stay with me, Vincent commanded, his face above hers coming in and out of focus. Sarah, stay with me. That's an order. The last thing she saw before darkness took her was Bianca's smile. And the last thing she felt was Vincent's arms tightening around her like he'd fight death itself to keep her safe. Plot twist, honey. Told you it would get messy. Sarah woke to silk sheets, dim lighting, and the worst headache of her life. It took her foggy brain a moment to realize she wasn't in her apartment. This room was massive, luxurious, and definitely not hers. Vincent sat in a chair beside the bed, tie loosened, shirt sleeves rolled up, looking like he hadn't slept in days. The moment her eyes opened, he was there, his hand finding hers. How do you feel? Like I got hit by a truck. Her voice came out raspy. What happened? Rohypnol in your champagne. His jaw tightened. Doctor, Morrison pumped your stomach. You've been unconscious for 18 hours. The words hit like ice water. Someone drugged me? Bianca. Vincent's voice was flat, cold, terrifying. She's been dealt with. Sarah's heart lurched. Dealt with? Vincent, what does that mean? It means she's on a plane to Italy, permanently. And if she ever sets foot in New York again, she'll regret it. He brushed hair from her forehead, his touch achingly gentle. I should have seen it coming. Should have protected you better. This isn't your fault, isn't it? Vincent stood, pacing like a caged animal. I brought you into my world, Sarah. I knew it was dangerous. I knew people would target you to get to me. And I did it anyway because I was selfish. Because I wanted... He stopped himself. Wanted what? Sarah pushed herself up despite the spinning room. Vincent, wanted what? He turned, and the raw emotion in his eyes stole her breath. You. I wanted you. From the moment I saw you in that restaurant, carrying those dishes like they mattered, being kind to strangers, actually giving a damn. He crossed back to her, kneeling beside the bed so their eyes were level. I'm in love with you, Sarah Mitchell. Completely, irrevocably, in a way that makes me reckless and stupid and dangerous. Sarah's heart hammered. Vincent, don't. He pressed a finger to her lips. Don't say anything yet, because I need you to understand what that means. Loving me means danger. It means people like Bianca. It means looking over your shoulder. It means accepting that my world is dark and violent and wrong. I know what you are, Sarah whispered. I've known from the beginning. Then you know why I'm giving you a choice. Vincent's thumb traced her cheekbone. You can walk away. I'll set you up anywhere in the country. New identity, new life, enough money that you'll never have to worry. Or, he paused, his voice dropping, or you can stay, with me, as mine. But if you choose that, Sarah, there's no going back. The room fell silent except for their breathing. Sarah looked at this complicated, dangerous, surprisingly gentle man who'd just banished his own sister to protect a waitress he barely knew. She thought about her safe, ordinary life. And she thought about the way his hand trembled slightly as it cupped her face. I'm terrified, she admitted. You should be. But I'm not leaving. Vincent closed his eyes, relief and something darker, possession, flashing across his face. When he opened them again, he was looking at her the way drowning men look at lifeboats. Then you're mine, Sarah. Completely. And I protect what's mine. He leaned in, and Sarah knew her life had just changed forever. But honey, if you think this is the end of the danger, you haven't been paying attention. The real storm is just beginning. 3 months after Bianca's exile, Sarah had moved into Vincent's penthouse. Not because he demanded it, he'd never demand anything from her, but because someone had broken into her apartment and left a single red rose on her pillow. The message was clear. We can reach you anywhere. Vincent had her things packed within the hour. Now Sarah woke every morning in silk sheets that cost more than her car, in a bedroom bigger than her entire old apartment, with Vincent's arm draped protectively across her waist. It should have felt wrong. Somehow, it felt like the safest place in the world. Morning, Vincent murmured against her neck, his voice still rough with sleep. 3 months together, and that voice still did things to her pulse that should probably be illegal. We have the Romano meeting at 9, Sarah reminded him, already mentally reviewing his schedule. Old habits died hard. The Romanos can wait. Vincent pulled her closer, his hand sliding beneath her silk nightgown. I have more important matters to attend to. And oh, honey, the man had priorities. Can't fault him there. 2 hours later, because when a man like Vincent Castellano focuses his attention, time becomes irrelevant, they finally made it to his office. Sarah was reviewing contracts when Marco burst through the door, his usually composed face ashen. Boss, we have a problem. Vincent looked up sharply. What kind of problem? Bianca, she's back in New York. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Sarah watched Vincent's expression shift from the gentle lover she'd woken with to something cold and lethal. This was the man who ran the Castellano Empire. This was the man people feared. She knows the terms, Vincent said quietly. Quiet was worse than shouting. She sets foot in New York. She forfeits her life. She's not alone, boss. She brought the Moretti family with her, and they're asking for a sit-down. Sarah's blood ran cold. Even she knew about the Morettis, the Chicago crime family that made the Castellanos look like choir boys. Ruthless, violent, and controlled by Antonio Moretti, a man whose reputation for brutality was legendary. When? Vincent was already reaching for his phone. Tonight, neutral ground, the warehouse on Pier 47. Marco hesitated. Boss, this smells like a trap. Of course it's a trap. Vincent's jaw tightened. But if I don't show, it's a sign of weakness, and weakness gets people killed. Then take extra security. Take the whole crew. No. Vincent cut him off. I take 5 men. Anything more looks like I'm scared. Antonio respects strength, not paranoia. Sarah stood abruptly. You can't go. Both men turned to her. Vincent's expression softened slightly. Sarah. No, listen to me. She moved around the desk, her hands shaking but her voice steady. This is exactly what Bianca wants. She tried to kill me and failed. Now she's bringing in outside muscle to finish what she started. If you go to this meeting, you're walking into an ambush. Vincent caught her hands, steadying their tremor. I know, but I don't have a choice, Tesoro. If I refuse, the Morettis take it as disrespect. They'll come for us anyway, but on their terms, their timeline. At least this way, I control the location and the numbers. Then I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. Vincent, no. His voice was steel wrapped in velvet. Sarah, you are the one thing in my life I cannot risk. The one pure, good thing in all this darkness. I will walk into hell itself, but I won't take you with me. Tears burned Sarah's eyes. And what am I supposed to do if you don't come back? Vincent cupped her face, his thumbs brushing away tears she hadn't realized had fallen. Then you take the documents in my office safe. Bank accounts, offshore holdings, everything. Marco knows how to access them. You disappear, start fresh somewhere beautiful and far from here. I don't want your money. I want you. I know, amore mio. That's why I love you. He kissed her forehead, soft and achingly tender. But if something happens to me tonight, I need to know you'll survive. Promise me. Sarah wanted to refuse, wanted to scream, to fight, to chain him to the bed and throw away the key. Instead, she looked into his dark eyes and saw the truth. He would go to this meeting whether she agreed or not. The only question was whether she would make his last hours harder. I promise, she whispered, even as her heart shattered. But Vincent, come back to me. His smile was sad and beautiful and full of things he couldn't say. Always. But as Sarah watched him leave 6 hours later, dressed in his armor of expensive suits and cold determination, she couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just said goodbye forever. And honey, sometimes those feelings are right. The warehouse on Pier 47 smelled like dead fish and diesel fuel. Vincent arrived exactly on time, Early suggested desperation, late suggested disrespect. Antonio Moretti was already there, a bear of a man with silver hair and eyes like a shark, black, empty, and constantly hunting. Bianca stood beside him, wearing victory like a second skin. Vincent. Antonio's voice was gravel and broken glass. Thank you for accepting my invitation. Let's skip the pleasantries, Antonio. Why are you in my city? Vincent kept his hands visible, relaxed. His men flanked him. Marco, Tony, Stefan, James, and Rico. 5 against Antonio's 10. Not great odds, but Vincent had survived worse. Your sister came to me with an interesting proposition. Antonio lit a cigar, the smoke curling like a threat. She says you've gone soft, that you're distracted by some waitress, that you're no longer fit to lead the Castellano family. And you believed her? Vincent's voice carried amusement he didn't feel. Antonio, you've been in this business 40 years. Do I look soft to you? Antonio studied him through the smoke. No, but I've also heard you exiled your own sister over this girl. That's either the action of a man in love or a man losing control. I need to know which. Does it matter? Vincent spread his hands. Bianca tried to kill someone under my protection. She broke family law. The punishment is exile or death. I chose mercy. Mercy, Bianca spat. You chose that little nobody over your own blood. I chose honor over treachery, Vincent corrected coldly. There's a difference. Antonio raised a hand, silencing Bianca. Here's my problem, Vincent. Chicago and New York have maintained peace for 3 decades because we both know starting a war would destroy us both. But your sister offers me something interesting, a partnership. She runs New York. I supply the muscle and connections. We split the profits 60-40. And all you have to do is kill me, Vincent finished. Efficient. Except for one small problem. What's that? You're smarter than this, Antonio. Vincent took a step forward, and 10 guns immediately trained on him. He didn't flinch. You kill me, you get a war with every family I'm allied with. The Russos, the Costellos, the Chin family. You get federal attention because I've kept things quiet and profitable. And you get a partner who just betrayed her own brother. He looked at Bianca with disgust. How long before she does the same to you? Silence fell over the warehouse. Antonio puffed his cigar, considering. Vincent could see the calculation in his eyes. Profit versus risk. Ambition versus survival. Your sister promised me the Castellano territory, Antonio said finally. My sister doesn't have the Castellano territory to give. She has nothing but ambition and poison. Vincent's voice hardened. But I can offer you something better. The docks. Full access to our shipping routes for the next 5 years. 30% of the take. Bianca's face went white. You can't. 40%, Antonio countered. 35, and I include the union contracts. You'll have labor peace on every Chicago shipment that comes through New York. Antonio smiled slowly. It wasn't a pleasant expression. You drive a hard bargain, Vincent. I learned from the best. My father taught me to recognize value and eliminate liabilities. Vincent looked at Bianca. I'm offering you value, Antonio. All you have to do is eliminate the liability. Understanding dawned on Bianca's face. No. Antonio, we had a deal. We had a conversation, Antonio corrected. And your brother just made me a better offer. He nodded to his men. 2 of them grabbed Bianca's arms. Nothing personal, Bella. Just business. Vincent! Bianca screamed as they dragged her toward the door. Vincent, please, I'm your sister, your blood. Vincent's expression could have been carved from stone. You stopped being my sister when you tried to kill the woman I love. Consider this your second mercy. Antonio won't be as gentle as exile. Her screams echoed across the warehouse until the door slammed shut. Then there was only silence and the smell of cigar smoke. Pleasure doing business with you, Vincent. Antonio extended his hand. Vincent shook it, feeling sick and relieved and more tired than he'd ever been. Stay out of my territory, Antonio. Next time I won't be so accommodating. Fair enough. Antonio headed for the exit, then paused. Word of advice? The girl who makes you this week? She's either going to save you or destroy you. Maybe both. After he left, Marco approached cautiously. Boss, you okay? Vincent stared at the warehouse door, thinking about Bianca's screams, about the sister he'd once protected from their father's rages. About the moment ambition had poisoned whatever love had existed between them. Take me home, Marco. I need to see Sarah. Because after dancing with devils, a man needed to remember what angels looked like. Sarah had worn a path in the Persian rug, pacing Vincent's office for 4 hours. Her phone sat silent on the desk, mocking her. No calls, no texts, no word about whether the man she loved was alive or bleeding out in some warehouse. When the elevator finally dinged at 2 a.m., she nearly collapsed with relief. Vincent emerged looking exhausted but whole, and Sarah launched herself at him, wrapping her arms around his neck like she could physically prevent him from ever leaving again. "I'm okay," he murmured into her hair. "I'm okay, amore. I'm here." "What happened?" Sarah pulled back, searching his face for injuries. "Where's Bianca?" Vincent's expression went dark. "Gone, permanently this time." Sarah didn't ask what permanently meant. She wasn't sure she wanted to know. Instead, she led him to the bedroom, helped him out of his blood-free suit, thank God, and curled against him in the darkness. "I thought I lost you," she whispered. "Never." Vincent's arms tightened around her. "Sarah, there's something I need to ask you. Anything. Marry me." Sarah's heart stopped. Started. Stopped again. She pushed up on one elbow, searching his face in the dim light. "What?" "Marry me," Vincent repeated, his voice steady and sure. "Not because I own you or control you, but because you're the only person who's ever seen past the monster to the man underneath. Because you make me want to be better. Because I love you more than I've ever loved anything in my miserable life. Vincent, we've only been together 3 months. I don't care if it's been 3 days or 3 years. I know what I want, who I want." He cupped her face, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. "Marry me, Sarah Mitchell. Be my wife, my partner, my reason for getting out of this life someday. Say yes." Sarah's mind raced. This was insane. Reckless. Every rational thought screamed that 3 months wasn't enough time to know someone, especially someone whose business card should list morally ambiguous as a job description. But her heart, her stupid, reckless heart, knew something her brain didn't. It knew that Vincent Castellano, for all his darkness, loved her with a ferocity that most people never experienced. It knew that he'd banished his sister for her, negotiated with monsters for her, and would burn the world down to keep her safe. "Yes," she heard herself say. "Yes, I'll marry you." Vincent's smile was blinding. He kissed her with a passion that promised forever, his hands sliding into her hair, his body covering hers like he could shield her from everything wrong in the world. And for that night, in the safety of his arms, Sarah believed he could. But morning brought complications neither of them had anticipated. Sarah woke to find Vincent already dressed, standing by the window with his phone pressed to his ear. His expression was thunderous. "What do you mean they rejected it?" He snarled into the phone. "I had their word. The commission approved." He listened, his jaw tightening with every second. "I understand. No, I'll handle it." He hung up, and when he turned to Sarah, she saw something she'd never seen in his eyes before. Fear. "What's wrong?" she asked, sitting up. "The commission wants a meeting. They're questioning my leadership. Apparently, several families think my—" He paused, choosing words carefully. "Relationship with you has made me weak. They're calling for a vote." "A vote on what?" Vincent's expression said everything. "On whether I remain head of the family, or whether someone else takes my place." Sarah's blood ran cold. "Who would replace you?" "My cousin Marcus. He's been circling for years, waiting for an opening." Vincent ran a hand through his hair, frustration radiating from every line of his body. "This is Bianca's final revenge. She poisoned enough minds before Antonio dealt with her. Now they think I'm compromised." "Then we'll prove them wrong," Sarah said firmly. "Whatever this vote entails, whatever you need to do, I'll support you." "Sarah, you don't understand. If they vote me out, they won't just remove me from power. They'll eliminate me. That's how succession works in our world." The words hit like bullets. "Then we run. Take your money and disappear. Start over somewhere they'll never find us. And spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders, waiting for an assassin to find us?" Vincent shook his head. "No, I won't give them that power. I won't let fear dictate our lives." "Then what do we do?" Vincent crossed to the bed, kneeling beside it so their eyes were level. "We fight." I call in every favor, every alliance, every debt owed to the Castellano family, and I remind the commission exactly why my father chose me to lead. When is the vote? 1 week, 7 days. Sarah looked at the man she loved, the man who just proposed to her hours ago, and realized their engagement might last exactly 7 days. But if Vincent Castellano had taught her anything, it was that you don't surrender to fear. You face it head-on, consequences be damned. Then we have 7 days to change their minds, Sarah said. Tell me what you need. Vincent's smile was fierce and proud. Have I mentioned that I love you? Once or twice. Sarah kissed him softly. Now let's make sure you live long enough to marry me. The next 6 days were a blur of meetings, phone calls, and political maneuvering that made Sarah's head spin. Vincent worked 18-hour days, calling in favors from families across the eastern seaboard. The Russos pledged their support. The Costellos remained neutral. The Chin family was still considering. Sarah threw herself into research, learning everything she could about the commission, its members, and their voting history. She studied leverage points, old grudges, and alliances that went back generations. If Vincent was going to survive this, he needed every advantage possible. On the 5th day, Marcus Castellano paid them a visit. He was younger than Vincent, 28, with the same dark eyes, but none of the warmth. Looking at Marcus was like looking at Vincent with the humanity surgically removed. It was deeply unsettling. Cousin, Marcus drawled, settling into Vincent's office chair like he already owned it. I heard you've been busy this week, making calls, promising favors. Almost seems like you're worried about the vote. I'm ensuring the families make an informed decision, Vincent replied coolly. He stood while Marcus sat, a power play that wasn't lost on Sarah. Did you come here for a reason, or just to gloat prematurely? I came to make you an offer. Marcus leaned back, studying Vincent with calculating eyes. Step down voluntarily. I'll ensure you and your pretty waitress live out your days in comfortable exile. Switzerland, maybe, or Monaco, somewhere sunny. And if I refuse, then the commission votes and you lose. And instead of Switzerland, you get a bullet. Marcus smiled, but it was the expression of a snake eyeing a mouse. Your choice, cousin. But I should mention, I already have 8 votes secured. I only need 9 to win. Sarah's heart sank. The commission had 17 members. 9 votes meant majority. If Marcus had 8, Vincent needed to secure all 9 remaining votes to survive. Get out of my office, Vincent said quietly. Think about it. Marcus stood, buttoning his suit jacket. You've got 48 hours until the vote. That's 48 hours to decide if you want to die for pride or live for love. He looked at Sarah directly for the first time. Take the deal, sweetheart. Otherwise, you're going to be a widow before you're ever a wife. After he left, Sarah grabbed Vincent's hand. Is it true? Does he really have 8 votes? Probably. Vincent's jaw was tight. The Benedettis, the Lucianos, the Gambrellis, they've all been hungry for a change. Marcus has been promising them bigger territories, better deals. Then we need 9 votes. Who's left? Vincent pulled up a list on his computer. The Russos, already committed to me. The Chin family, the Venturis, the Barzinis, the Espositos, the Martinellis, the Costellos, the Donatos, and old Don Carmine. 9 families. Can you secure them all? Not all. The Venturis hate me. I killed their previous Don in a territory dispute 5 years ago. The Barzinis are Marcus's cousins. They'll vote for him out of family loyalty. Vincent ran calculations in his head. Best case scenario, I get 7 votes. We'll be tied 8-8, with one family deciding everything. Which family? Vincent's expression was grim. Don Carmine. He's 92 years old, half-blind, and hasn't attended a commission meeting in 3 years. But his vote still counts, and nobody knows which way he'll lean. He's unpredictable. Then we go see him. Convince him. Sarah, Don Carmine doesn't see anyone. He's practically a ghost. Then we find him, Sarah interrupted firmly. Vincent, I didn't fall in love with you to watch you die because of politics. We have 48 hours. We're not wasting them accepting defeat. Vincent looked at her, really looked at her, and Sarah saw the moment he decided to fight instead of flee. Marco, he called out, get me everything we have on Don Carmine's location. We're going to visit a ghost. 36 hours until the vote. Sarah had never been religious, but she found herself praying to any god who might listen. Please let this work. Please let him survive. Please let us have more than 7 days. The answer came in the form of an address in upstate New York, a crumbling mansion that looked like something from a Gothic novel, and an old man who might hold Vincent's life in his arthritic hands. Time to meet the ghost. Don Carmine's mansion sat on 50 acres of overgrown property, the kind of place where nature had reclaimed what humans had abandoned. Vincent and Sarah drove up the winding driveway at dawn, watching the sunrise paint the deteriorating facade in shades of gold and rust. "He's going to kill us for showing up unannounced," Vincent muttered, parking the car. "Then we'll die together," Sarah replied with more confidence than she felt. Romantic, really. Vincent laughed despite everything, that dark, genuine laugh she'd fallen in love with. "You're insane. You know that? I learned from the best." The front door opened before they could knock. An ancient man stood in the doorway, not Don Carmine, but clearly his guard. The man looked Vincent up and down, then, surprisingly, looked at Sarah the same way. "Don Carmine is expecting you," he said in a voice like gravel in a blender. "How?" Sarah blurted. "We didn't call ahead." The old guard smiled, revealing exactly 3 teeth. "Don Carmine knows everything. He always has." They followed him through halls lined with photographs spanning 8 decades. Weddings, christenings, funerals, all documenting a life most people couldn't imagine. The house smelled like old books and expensive cigars, like history itself had settled into the walls. Don Carmine sat in a library that could have housed a university's collection. He was smaller than Sarah expected, shrunken with age, but his eyes were sharp and clear as glacial ice. Those eyes had seen presidents rise and fall, empires built and destroyed. Those eyes missed nothing. "Vincent Castellano," Don Carmine's voice was surprisingly strong. "You look like your father. Not as tall, but you have his eyes. And this must be the famous Sarah Mitchell." Sarah felt stripped bare under that gaze. "How do you know my name?" "Child, I've known about you since the day Vincent met you at that restaurant. I know he rejected 17 blind dates before you. I know about Bianca's exile, about Antonio Moretti, about Marcus's ambitions. I know everything because that's how I've survived 92 years in this business." He gestured to chairs. "Sit. We have much to discuss." They sat. Vincent started to speak, but Don Carmine raised a hand. "I know why you're here. Marcus has 8 votes. You have 7. Mine is the deciding vote." Don Carmine poured himself wine with steady hands. "The question is, why should I vote for you instead of him?" "Because Marcus is ambitious without wisdom," Vincent said. "He'll start wars to expand territory. He'll draw federal attention with his recklessness. Under his leadership, we'll all fall. Perhaps, or perhaps the families need fresh blood. You're 32, Vincent. Your father ran the family until he was 70. You're still young, still learning. Marcus is hungry. Hunger drives progress. Hunger without control drives destruction," Vincent countered. "Don Carmine, with respect, you've seen this play out before. How many times has ambition without temperance destroyed families? Too many to count." Don Carmine turned his glacial gaze to Sarah. "But let's discuss the real issue. You've fallen in love. That's wonderful. It's also dangerous. Love makes men weak, makes them hesitate at crucial moments. Your father never loved your mother. Their marriage was arranged. He made decisions with his head, never his heart. Can you say the same?" "No," Vincent admitted. "I love Sarah. I won't apologize for that or pretend otherwise." "Then you've just proven my point. A man in love is a liability." Sarah's heart sank. They'd lost. They'd come all this way, and they'd lost because Vincent was honest about loving her. But then Don Carmine turned to Sarah. "What about you, child? What do you think?" Sarah blinked. "Me? You. The waitress who captured the heart of New York's most eligible criminal. What do you think makes a good leader?" Sarah's mind raced. This was a test. Everything was a test, with men like Don Carmine. She thought about Vincent, about the way he protected his people, the way he kept his word even when it hurt, the way he'd chosen honor over blood when Bianca betrayed him. "I think," Sarah said carefully, "that love doesn't make men weak. Fear does. Vincent loves me, yes, but that love doesn't cloud his judgment. It clarifies it. He exiled his sister not because he was blinded by love, but because he understood that protecting one innocent person was worth more than family loyalty to someone who'd become a monster." He negotiated with Antonio Moretti not from a position of fear, but of strength. He's facing this vote instead of running because he refuses to let fear dictate his life. She met Don Carmine's eyes steadily. Marcus is hungry, yes, but Vincent is wise, and wisdom will always outlast hunger. Silence fell over the library. Don Carmine studied her for a long moment, then turned to Vincent. Your father would have hated her, he said finally. She's too smart, too strong-willed, too honest for a world built on secrets and lies. He paused. That's why she's perfect for you. Vincent's hand found Sarah's, squeezing tight. The vote is tomorrow at noon, Don Carmine continued. I'll cast my ballot then. But I want you to understand something, both of you. If I vote for Vincent and he wins, this doesn't end. Marcus won't accept defeat gracefully. There will be attempts on your life, betrayals, more Biancas waiting in the shadows. Are you prepared for that? Yes, Vincent said without hesitation. Don Carmine looked at Sarah. And you? Are you prepared to live this life? To always wonder if today is the day someone tries to kill the man you love? Sarah thought about her old life. Safe, boring, ordinary. She thought about her studio apartment with its broken heater, her minimum wage jobs, her predictable existence. Then she looked at Vincent, complicated, dangerous, extraordinary Vincent, and knew her answer. I'd rather live one dangerous day with him than 1,000 safe days without him. Don Carmine smiled, a real smile this time. Then I'll see you tomorrow at the commission meeting. And Vincent, bring security. Lots of it. Because regardless of how I vote, tomorrow is going to be interesting. As they drove back to the city, Sarah's hands trembled with adrenaline. Do you think we convinced him? I don't know, Vincent admitted. But Sarah, what you said back there, that was incredible. I meant every word. Vincent pulled over suddenly, turning to face her. If we lose tomorrow, if Don Carmine votes for Marcus, I want you to promise me something. No. Sarah. No, she repeated firmly. We're not having the if I die conversation. We're going to that vote tomorrow and we're winning, and then we're getting married. End of story. Vincent cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. Stubborn woman. You love it. I love you. They kissed in the car on the side of the road, two people refusing to accept that tomorrow might be their last day together. When they finally pulled apart, Vincent's expression was determined. Then let's go win a vote. 12 hours until the commission meeting. 12 hours until Vincent's fate, their fate, was decided by 17 old men in a room that smelled of cigars and blood money. Sarah had never been more terrified in her life, but she'd also never been more certain that they'd find a way to survive. They had to. Their story couldn't end before they'd even properly begun. The commission met in a private club in Manhattan that officially didn't exist. Vincent arrived with Marco and 8 other men, not enough to start a war, but enough to make a statement. Sarah stayed in the car with 2 guards, watching through tinted windows as Vincent disappeared inside. He'll be fine, Marco assured her for the 10th time. Boss is smart. He'll handle this. Sarah wanted to believe him. She really did. But her heart hammered against her ribs like it was trying to escape, and her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Inside, Vincent entered the meeting room where 17 men sat around a table that had witnessed 50 years of criminal negotiations. Marcus was already there, looking confident. Too confident. Don Carmine sat at the head of the table, ancient and inscrutable. Gentlemen, Don Carmine's voice silenced the room. We're here to vote on leadership of the Castellano family. Vincent Castellano currently leads. Marcus Castellano challenges. Each family gets 1 vote. Majority wins. Let's begin. One by one, the families cast their votes. Vincent's heart sank as Marcus secured his predicted 8. But Vincent's 7 held firm. The Russos, the Chin family, the Espositos, the Martinellis, the Costellos, the Donatos, and surprisingly, the Venturis, whose Don apparently valued Vincent's honesty about past conflicts. 8-7. Don Carmine's vote would decide everything. Don Carmine, the moderator said. Your vote? The old man stood slowly, his eyes sweeping the room. I've sat at this table for 63 years. I've seen families rise and fall. I've seen good men corrupted by power and bad men redeemed by love. I've seen it all, and I'll tell you this. Leadership isn't about strength or hunger or even intelligence. It's about understanding that power serves purpose, not ego. He turned to Marcus. You're ambitious. That's good, but you're also reckless. You'd start 3 wars in your first year just to prove you could. Then he turned to Vincent. You're cautious. Some call it weak. I call it wise. More importantly, you understand that love isn't weakness. It's the only thing that keeps men from becoming monsters. Don Carmine's gaze settled on Vincent. My vote goes to Vincent Castellano. The room erupted. Marcus shot to his feet, fury transforming his face. This is bullshit. He's compromised by that waitress. He's weak. Sit down, Marcus, Don Carmine commanded with surprising force. The vote is 8-8 with 1 abstention still pending. What abstention? Marcus demanded. Mine, said a voice from the doorway. A man Vincent didn't recognize entered. Mid-50s, scarred, dangerous-looking. Antonio Moretti sends his regards. He's granted me proxy vote as his representative in commission matters concerning the Castellano family. Vincent's blood ran cold. Antonio had a vote? Since when? The stranger smiled at Vincent's expression. Don't look so surprised. When your sister approached the Morettis, Antonio demanded, and received, a seat at this table as compensation for his time. He couldn't attend today, so he sent me. The man pulled out a chair. My name is Sal Moretti, Antonio's cousin, and I'm here to cast the deciding vote. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. Antonio Moretti controlled Vincent's fate. After everything, the negotiation, the deal, Bianca's exile, Antonio still held the cards. Sal Moretti stood, surveying the room like a predator choosing his prey. Antonio sent me with instructions. He says Vincent Castellano is a man of his word. He says Vincent offered fair terms when he could have offered nothing. He says that kind of honor is rare in our world. Sal's gaze locked on Vincent. My vote goes to Vincent Castellano. May he lead with the same wisdom he showed in that warehouse. 9-8. Vincent had won. Marcus exploded from his chair, his hand reaching for a concealed weapon, but Marco was faster. 3 guns trained on Marcus before he could draw. Don't, Vincent said quietly. Marcus, it's over. Accept it. This isn't over, Marcus snarled. You think you've won? You've just painted a target on your back. On her back. I'll make you watch her die before I kill you myself. The gunshot echoed like thunder. Marcus stumbled backward, a red bloom spreading across his chest. He looked down in shock, then up at the shooter. Don Carmine stood with a smoking pistol, his hand steady despite his age. Threatening a made man's fiancé violates every code we hold sacred. Consider this my final act as a commission member. I'm retiring, effective immediately. He set the gun down carefully. Vincent, the family is yours. Try not to fuck it up. In the car outside, Sarah heard the gunshot and nearly broke through her own window trying to get out. But then the club doors opened and Vincent emerged, alive, whole, victorious. She ran to him, not caring about appearances or propriety or the dozen men watching. Vincent caught her, lifting her off her feet, his face buried in her hair. We won, he whispered. Sarah, we won. Your cousin? She asked, already knowing the answer from his expression. Gone. It's over. It's finally over. They held each other in the middle of a Manhattan street while bodyguards discreetly formed a protective circle. And Sarah realized that this moment right here, was what love looked like in Vincent's world. Not flowers and chocolates and easy promises, blood and bullets and surviving together. Marry me, Vincent said again. Right now. Today. I don't want to wait another minute. We need a license. A venue. I know a judge. He owes me 3 favors. We'll use 1. Vincent pulled back, his eyes intense. Sarah Mitchell, I have loved you from the moment you refused to sit in that booth. Marry me today, or I'll ask you every day until you do. Sarah laughed through tears she hadn't realized were falling. Then I guess we're getting married today. They were married 4 hours later in Don Carmine's library, because the old man insisted on witnessing the only wedding that ever mattered. Sarah wore the dress she'd worn to the club, not exactly bridal, but Vincent looked at her like she was wearing a gown made of starlight. You may kiss your bride, the judge said, clearly uncomfortable officiating a mob wedding but too indebted to refuse. Vincent kissed her soft and slow and full of promises that neither of them could guarantee, but both of them would fight to keep. When they pulled apart, Sarah was officially Mrs. Castellano, A name that carried weight and danger and legacy. No regrets? Vincent murmured against her lips. Sarah looked at her new husband, dangerous, complicated, extraordinary Vincent, and smiled. Not a single one. Outside, New York continued its chaotic dance, unaware that in a library filled with books and history, a mob boss and his waitress had just rewritten the rules of their world. It wouldn't be easy. There would be threats, challenges, attempts on their lives. Marcus had family who'd want revenge. Bianca's allies still lurked in shadows. But they'd face it together. Vincent Castellano had spent 32 years building walls around his heart. Sarah Mitchell had walked through them like they were made of paper. Together, they'd build something new, something honest, dangerous, and entirely their own. And honestly, honey, that's the best love story of all. Not the one where everything is easy, but the one where two people choose each other despite the cost. Where love doesn't conquer all, it just gives you someone worth fighting beside. Vincent and Sarah's story was just beginning. But unlike most fairy tales, theirs came with bodyguards, bulletproof cars, and the absolute certainty that happily ever after required constant vigilance and a really good security system. But it was theirs. Hard-won, battle-tested, and absolutely real. And sometimes, that's more than enough.